Honestly, I don't even know who my online daddy is. People like Nerdwriter, just people who put a lot of attention to detail in their videos or in the content that they produce.
I don't agree at all.
Yeah.
I think the rules have never been more ambiguous. They keep repeating the line, YouTube's a private company. They can do whatever they want. They don't have to listen to free speech or this or that. I'm not even saying they have to, but the companies are beholden to people, or they should be, ideally.
I went to VidCon thinking like, oh, I'm gonna meet a bunch of cool YouTubers or something. And then I was like, why the fuck did I pay for this event?
The creative prompt here is you guys need to invent a sponsor for this episode and do a 10-second ad read. Kino Corner is conspiring to make this a 7-hour podcast by asking each of your top 5 albums.
Hey, welcome to the Create Unknown. I am Kevin Lieber. With me, as always, is Matthew Tabor, who is going to spill the beans, the baked beans. They never say what kind of beans get spilled. Some kind of beans will be spilled
They have to be
about
baked.
our guests.
They're baked beans. They have a little bit of mustard. They have bacon. Yeah, see, you're going to be
I'm down
upset
for
about
these
these beans having been spilled because they're so tasty. You don't want them to go to waste. So yeah, today we've got Slush and Glink, who each have their own channels on YouTube, and they have a podcast together called Gush. On his channel, Slush specializes in really analytical deep dives, particularly in the gaming community. He's got exhaustive, well-researched histories like the history of Ninja, history of Dr. Disrespect, history of Shroud. They're the definitive accounts of those people's impacts on their respective platforms. And this year, he released a documentary on World of Warcraft player Reckful, and that became extremely relevant because just a few months after that, Reckful very tragically committed suicide, and it was good to take a look at Reckful's career at that time. Glink's content has run the gamut from offering Smash players very badly needed deodorant at a convention to
That's true.
oh god,
good.
It's true, but I'm still laughing. To taking a look at the lonely fans of OnlyFans. And just the other day, well, yesterday really, dropped a video about the critical role that online father figures like Jordan Peterson and Joe Rogan play in internet users' lives. So he's part documentarian, part filmmaker, part social scientist, and it's a really ambitiously mature combination, especially in a place like YouTube. So just a few weeks ago, Slush and Glink combined to form Gush, their podcast that's had Turkey Tom, Technicals, on to discuss controversies like scandals in the Smash community, and also YouTube's bizarre, constantly volatile commentary arena. So given that bio, let's start with an existential question for both of you. Right now, who are your online daddies?
Ooh. Okay, you go first. I gotta think about this.
This is hard, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think, well, actually, I'll say for the purposes of this and for my own kind of podcast, I'm trying to get successful. Definitely Joe Rogan, just because I see his platform, I see how successful he is and how he conducts himself. And I'm like, I would like to not emulate that, but I would like to be as authentic for myself in that way with, a podcast of my own. Like, that'd be so cool. So I think right now I'm channeling Joe Rogan.
Honestly, I don't even know who to say my online daddy is, but I guess like the people I look up to in terms of content creators are people like Nerdwriter and just people who put a lot of attention to detail in their videos or in the content that they produce. I have a lot of respect for people like that, and I strive to be similar to them with my own content.
What about online mommies? Do you have any of those?
I feel like
I can't wait, by the way, for Ben to pull that little clip of that question and then just we'll stop it right there and just pop that on Twitter.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, though, it's funny because people really do view certain personalities online as something akin to a mother or a father or a brother, not like in a serious way to where it's like, that's my, family relative, but you kind of have that label in your mind, I think, associated with someone, even if you aren't trying to, it just kind of happens naturally sometimes.
Definitely. Yeah. It's pretty common, especially I notice on Twitch, you'll always see the viewers referring to streamers as daddy or dad.
Yeah.
I even have friends who say it to me sometimes, and I know like they're just friends who are so
Real
ingrained in
life
that culture. Yeah, like I have a friend who's so like he spends all his time on Twitch, and he will call me dad in like DMs. They're like, Dad, what are you doing? I'll be like,
oh, weird.
It's very weird. Yeah,
that is not good.
Do you know?
Also, okay, my online mom figure is Sarah from Kira Kira Bonito.
Yes, same. Same.
Your friend who calls you dad, do you know what his relationship with his actual father is like? Like, does he need a dad?
I do. He has, so he, in his family, he respects his dad way more than his mom. I know that. Like, he always complains about his mom and always talks about how his dad is super cool and gets him. So he's got a good relationship with his dad.
Him. It's just a joke to call you that, I think.
It's also possible, so he's gay, and it's possible that it's just like a spillover of like daddy.
Yes.
Yeah, like it's a typical common slang in the gay community for people to call each other daddy or someone they think is attractive or something. I don't know. So maybe he's just like ironically calling me daddy or something.
We need to have him on next week so he can leak all the DMs and we can analyze these line by line.
I'll ask him. He just actually escaped Hong Kong to come to Toronto. So
oh, nice.
So he's available.
Oh, he's moving? He moved?
Yeah, his family just moved because of China, essentially. Luckily, they have dual citizenship.
Don't talk too badly about China within the first 5 minutes, by the way. We're going to get demonetized.
That's the golden rule on our podcast.
I'm curious. I know this is breaking the form a little bit, but I'm curious. You guys had iDubbbz on, right?
Yeah, so that was last week. By the time the normies hear this, that'll be on YouTube. Right now, the patrons can access it, and everybody else will get it tomorrow. But yeah, we had him on Wednesday.
Oh, perfect. So this episode will come out right after iDubbbz.
Yes, this is the next one after iDubbbz.
You're gonna make us follow a nobody act like that? That's unbelievable.
Yeah,
this is Gush you
disappointed.
got on here. This is Glink and Slush.
Like, you really set the viewers' expectations low before us. Like, oh man.
Yeah, we'll just knock him out of the water. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's whatever.
It was good talking about obviously the Leafy ban because that coincided with the time of us recording with him. But he's changed so much with content going from what it used to be with really short stuff, the crazy stuff with Filthy Frank and all that into longer form things like Content Cop and now the full length hour long documentaries. It's kind of cool to see his perspective on that. But he would seem to be of the mind that we all know the rules at this point about what's allowed on the platform, what isn't. And if you don't play by those rules, what can you expect? Do you think that's valid?
I don't agree at all.
Yeah,
I think the rules have never been more ambiguous. And I think Leafy's ban kind of highlights that. I mean, like, where is the line exactly? I mean, this really comes to a head for me because, well, me and Slush, one of our like good friends is Technicals. He's this commentary kind of channel. He's kind of like, he's definitely going to blow up. And he's already getting pretty popular. Anyways, he kind of does a little bit like edgy style commentary videos, but he doesn't really make fun of people's appearance. He's not like, hateful, I wouldn't say. But even he is like, okay, now that Leafy's banned for the kind of content he made, it is a little bit like, okay, well, where is the exact line? Is Technicals going to get banned?
Exactly.
It's just a lot of uncertainty in regards to that. And especially because he didn't get warnings, or at least that's what I've heard, that Leafy didn't get a warning. He just kind of got struck down overnight.
Well, apparently he actually did get a warning,
Oh, did
but he just didn't get strikes. He got all the strikes at once, which I don't think is right. I don't think YouTube should be allowed to apply 3 strikes and terminate a channel all at the same time. They should be forced to do it one at a time.
Especially if
I've
it's the
seen
baseball
baseball
analogy.
games,
Yeah. I was going to say baseball of just 1 pitch equals 3 strikes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Good point.
But has all of this stuff changed the way either of you have approached your content? Because if you're doing the history of somebody and it's got a portion where you really can get critical, like let's say it's the history of iDubbbz, and you need to address the portion about him commenting publicly about Anissa's OnlyFans.
Right.
You can do that in a lot of different ways. That's the kind of situation that could come up for you. Has this stuff, the murkiness and the overall climate of it, changed the approach that you'll take on some of the more controversial videos?
I don't think so. I typically when I deal with drama related stuff in the history of video, I'll usually try and be as objective as possible. I don't think that I've ever really done it in a way that I've worried that YouTube was going to strike me down, because I don't think I try and be very fit. My videos in general are more positive than they are negative. So even when I am talking about the negatives, I'll try and counterbalance that with the opposite side as well. I want both sides to be playing at the same time. But I have been feeling more apprehensive about doing history of videos in general, but not because of YouTube, more because of Reckful passing, like Reckful taking his own life. I don't know, it just kind of made me feel weird about the fact that I made a documentary about him just a few months earlier, and it's made me sort of reevaluate how much influence making a video about someone could have on their life. And not that I think that my video is the reason he did anything he did, but it's kind of made me want to talk more about ideas and save talking about people for special occasions, or maybe just do it sparingly, I guess. Yeah.
And Glink, you're starting to hit on some topics that they don't fall outside any community guidelines. I mean, it's legitimate to look at something like OnlyFans. It's legitimate to talk about the ideas that a Joe Rogan or a Jordan Peterson have. But we've also seen people over the last few years be suppressed on the platform by talking about those things, getting things like age restrictions. A friend of ours, Sean Malone, who we had on, I don't know how many episodes ago, he had 2 videos age restricted, where on his channel, he works for the Foundation for Economic Education. One was looking at Carnival Row on Amazon Prime and some of the political and immigration diversity issues in that show. That was age restricted. Another was about television's portrayal of police on shows like Law and Order. That was age restricted. So Law and Order plays like 27 hours a day on TNT or whatever it is.
On like 9 channels.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
My mom watches it all.
Yeah, I do too. I like it a lot. But any toddler can pop that on any hour of the day, and that's okay. But I guess if you make a YouTube about it, or a YouTube video about it, it's 18 plus. So even though you don't really run the risk of breaking any taboos, if you talk about some tough subjects, then what?
Yeah, censorship.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think for both of us, it's not so much that we're like, to be honest with you, I think the type of content Leafy and a lot of these people that got struck down or are at risk of that, generally speaking, I think it's bottom tier content. I don't care to watch it. I don't care about YouTube drama. It's just not interesting to me at all. And so that's not really a problem for me in terms of like, oh, I'm worried that because I make fun of people. I don't do any of those things. But it is a problem of like, well, like you're saying, I mean, where exactly the problem with the approach that it's their site, they can do what they want, follow the rules or get out, is that, okay, well, with that mentality, the rules are going to constantly be changing to be more and more sterile, to make the site more and more sterile, to be more censored if you have that mentality. Whereas if you're like, okay, fine, like, you know, working with YouTube maybe is worth it in this case, to be like, okay, this is not okay, this is bad, leave this off the platform, but we need like a sort of a safe space maybe of like, okay, we can talk about these things in this way, these types of channels, these types of videos, you know what I mean? But the way I feel is that nothing is off the table when it comes to what YouTube might want to remove in the future. So that is the concern. Yeah, you're right. It's like, and even if they don't outright remove it, there's age restrictions, there's demonetization, all these things, suppressed search results. That's just, but I don't know. Other than talking about it and taking a stance, I think that's important, because if you're just saying it doesn't matter, you let YouTube do what they want, especially as a big influential voice, I think you're missing an opportunity to sway the conversation a little bit.
Also, your OnlyFans video is like fully monetized. They approved it.
That's true. Yeah. But it's completely blurred. There's no nudity or like any suggestiveness to it.
But it shows that it was a manual review. So it shows that with the subject matter, whatever they got going on there with their manual review team, I have no idea what, like we clearly just saw over the last day or two with Charlie, Moist Critical, that the review team is incredibly incompetent.
What is the story with that, by the way? Do you guys know? I don't fully know.
I think that he covered, what was it, like a fake road rage incident where it wasn't real violence, and he didn't even show any of the non-real violence in his video for the most part, but he got demonetized for having violence. And then Markiplier had also covered the same thing and said, how come I didn't get a strike? And then they struck him too.
Oh my God.
And then YouTube just like a few hours ago was like, actually, we were wrong. And both of you are now to have no strikes on your channel.
Okay. So they did revert it in the end. They've done that a few times, right? Where they've put out these sort of preemptive bans or strikes or whatever, and then enough public outcry. And then they're like, okay, never mind. We messed up.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin, can you remember anything? Like, do you remember any backpedals like that from back in the day? Because like I think you were in the room when YouTube was first coded. So like you've kind of seen it all. But can you remember a reversal like that ever happening with something?
Not to that degree. That was a really interesting one, just because they even said that they had reviewed it and they still didn't like it. And then they like escalated it and reviewed it again. And then we're like, okay. I think that a couple of the biggest problems that YouTube has are, obviously a billion hours a minute of video are uploaded onto YouTube. So they have to create these extensive, like insane algorithms to sift through all of that and determine, what they can run a Starbucks ad against and what they can't. But to me, the problem where they fail tremendously is that I know for a fact no one works at YouTube that uses YouTube. No one.
Yeah, that's
literally, because the way that Google hires, for those who aren't familiar, is that so obviously YouTube is owned by Google. The way that Google hires is that they want to be able to have flexibility with their employees so that they can move them within the company, so that perhaps you work on Google Docs or something for a year, and then they slide you over to be like some sort of like audience development manager for YouTube. And then, you get a promotion and you're working for like the marketing team, like Google Ads or whatever. Like the way that they hire is that they want their employees to be so well-rounded in their minds that they can kind of slide them around within their 40,000 different products and departments sort of seamlessly, which really doesn't allow for people who work at YouTube to be kind of like dyed-in-the-wool YouTube employees in a lot of sense. So like I know literally one employee of YouTube who I know personally who was a YouTuber and so actually had experience on the platform, but otherwise the other 2,000 plus employees of YouTube don't really know kind of anything. And I'm being serious about this, about YouTube. It's very weird about like actually interacting and using YouTube at all. So these problems are very mysterious to them. And they look at almost everything through the lens of data, because Google is a data company. They're not a creative company. They just care about data. So, that's how all of their decisions are made, which is great probably for 99% of their products. But for the 1% of YouTube that is human driven and not data driven, they're going to constantly run into problems until they ever decide to actually start working with and talking to and running by their ideas with actual people who use YouTube.
Kind of seems like they don't even have an incentive to do that, though. Like, they're just going to keep doing things the way they're doing it now because it's clearly this method is easy for them to move employees around and it's probably cost efficient. And what do they care if some YouTubers get upset with their decisions? It's not going to stop the other billions of videos.
Yeah. It has only reared its ugly head a few times, but when it has reared its ugly head, it has cost them tremendously. I don't know if you guys remember 2 years ago, maybe, when they removed almost every channel's verification just overnight for no reason. They just removed verification for everybody except like Jimmy Kimmel Live or whatever. And there was a huge blow up over that, where all the creators were like, hey, why am I not verified anymore? You know, like, I use your platform all day, every day, whatever.
That's a big deal. It's a big deal being verified, you know, like, people are very proud of that. And it gave legitimacy to their massive project. And then all of a sudden it's just like, just kidding. It's like if I woke up today and like my driver's license was revoked for no reason at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, my passport is shredded.
That cost them a lot of money because they ended up reversing that. And within the course of like 3 days or something, they went from removing everybody's verification to this gigantic project where it was like all hands on deck, like hundreds of engineers working on trying to get everybody's verification back. So there are instances in which they do lose out a lot by just doing things. And they did it recently again with the fan submissions of closed captions, where they just nuked that.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And they were like, oh, only 0.1% of users use that. And it's like, okay, based on what though? Like, we're based on all, like, the 100% of YouTube videos that are uploaded? Because only 1%, I think, of YouTube videos get 100,000 views, right? And those are the types of videos that are going to have fan submissions. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, you can rig that data however you want it, and it doesn't even, it's not even a relevant data point.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of almost makes it sound like they fail as a data company, because if they were to take a...
It makes sense as a data company, but it doesn't make sense from a creative...
Yeah.
Because it's like, yeah, right. For the creative people, which is the 1%, maybe it's insignificant data-wise, but they're the ones who are really driving the core of the content, you know?
Yeah, but wouldn't the data represent that, like, realistically? If 1% of the content is generating the most of the ad revenue...
I feel like it is. I don't know actually about that. See, I'm not good with data. I don't know.
Yeah, it might not be an ad revenue thing, because that's the weird position that YouTube is in, is that they have these top creators. I remember years ago, oh my gosh, this was probably 5 years ago or so, I saw a chart from YouTube showing like the amount of views that like PewDiePie gets a month, right? And I don't remember off the top of my head what it was, but back then it was, let's say it was like 50 million views a month. Okay. Now compare that to like how many views, you know, a music video gets. It's a drop in the bucket. Like if you're going to compare YouTube creators to the whole of YouTube, we're nothing to them.
Yeah.
Nothing. It's like a blip. The only thing that we are like kind of PR for using the platform. It's a really weird situation.
I do kind of wonder though if Twitter outreach from these creators, which, you know, it's I think on Twitter it's no small thing when someone like Critical is getting, you know, 10,000 likes and retweets or whatever at Team YouTube. I feel like that is holding a lot of sway when it comes to getting stuff revoked and getting things changed. But other than that, I don't know. I don't think emailing them is gonna suffice.
Yeah, that's interesting too, because it's pretty obvious that having a large Twitter following enables you to deal with YouTube properly, which is something that you should be able to do without it. But in a weird way, it's almost like YouTube is encouraging you as the creator to invest in a different platform. It seems backwards.
Yeah.
You think they would want to make it easy for you to contact them through their own platform to avoid you potentially moving elsewhere.
Yeah, creators now, I think, are more incentivized than ever to diversify.
Spread out, yeah.
I saw a couple tweets today that were saying that it's such a shame, such a shame to have to go on Twitter and kind of create this big, big thing calling negative attention to YouTube to get the policy to change. And I clicked the person's profile and looked down, and it was all retweets of protests and riots and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, like, you literally spent 2 weeks tweeting about how the only way to get something done is to have a public display of angst, for better or worse. But then for some reason, when it's YouTube, you're like, oh no, actually, this is, it shouldn't have to be this way.
Well, that might just say that this person has more faith in a private company to deal with people than their own government, I guess.
Well,
yeah, that's
I think
quite
that goes
possible.
back to the whole. I think that goes back to the whole mentality thing of, like, again, this is what I don't get about people who say, they keep repeating the line, YouTube's a private company. They can do whatever they want. They don't have to listen to free speech or this or that. I'm not even saying they have to. But the companies are beholden to people, or they should be, ideally. So it's like the same thing. You would never tell someone who's protesting to be like, oh, well, that's the government. They can legally do that or whatever. It's like, okay, yeah, but do you want to make a change, or do you want to just be under their thumb?
Mm-hmm.
So
Who are you
Yeah, I
guys
agree
beholden
fully.
to? Must be somebody.
I think for me, it's like I'm beholden to certain standards I have of myself, my family. I wouldn't want to disappoint my family,
But
friends.
do you mean that as a YouTuber or as a person?
What's the difference?
Well, yeah,
There's
That's-
difference.
that's a good point too. I can see somebody saying there is no difference and somebody else saying there is. I mean, Kevin's a good example where, like, Kevin, your content is, distinctly different from how you live your life. I mean, look, this is the big secret, guys. Educational content creators generally don't sit around like doing math problems all day. They like,
I'm
they
leaving
have-
this podcast right now.
yeah. Now that we all know that the truth.
It's like saying
But
Santa
yeah,
isn't
I mean,
real.
like, but there's a distinct
Santa's not
line there,
real?
whereas if you're doing something like commentary and it's about your thoughts, is the line a lot more blurry between who that person is and what their content is?
Ooh, that's a good point.
Mm.
I think
Me
the
and
political
Sam have
channels
talked
as
about
well.
this.
I mean, yeah, I mean, if you're talking about your political opinions on podcasts and on YouTube videos and stuff, you're probably somewhat invested in that, in normal life. So it's tougher to tell where one begins and the other ends and all that.
Yeah, this
This
I
is
think
deeper than I
everyone-
intended.
Everyone on YouTube that's, well, just any site, that's putting out any sort of creative projects and stuff out there and has an audience, there's always going to be a separation between their personal life and their online life. But for some people, that distinction is so much more boxed in, like, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like Dr. Disrespect, I think, is a good example of this, where he has this very clear character, this very clear persona, but, I don't think he's Dr. Disrespect around his wife and his kid, like he's a different person once the stream is off completely. And I
feel like it applies to YouTubers the most
yeah,
because of the fact that it's edited and controlled so much. Whereas Twitch streamers is probably the one place that you're going to find creators who are extremely authentic. Not always, probably not even commonly. But you're not going
Here's
to
the
find it
difference.
on YouTube.
here's the
That
difference though
much.
with Twitch streamers. Twitch streamers, their real life becomes their streamer person. With YouTubers, you can keep your YouTube person away from your real life person. And obviously we've seen this sometimes over time. This becomes intertwined so heavily, like probably, I don't know, with PewDiePie or something. He's probably actually pretty similar to how he is in his videos, minus all the editing and stuff.
Maybe.
Yeah. But I think
Have you seen
I think
people-
of who is like a healthy. Sorry, go on.
Oh, I was wondering if Kevin had seen, if he could think of people who have made these transitions, whether it's becoming the channel or the channel becoming them over time.
Yeah, but I'm not going to say who because
Well, there's got to be an instance where it's like not a terrible thing, right? Well, look, we can say that a lot of people have accused Ethan Klein of this. Like it's, that's all over Twitter every day. Like he gets heat for this all the time. So we're not going out of bounds by saying that. But there's got to be,
them
people.
Certainly it was like a jarring event for people, or not event, but for people to see who he was in his videos versus him in a more natural setting when he's live and says things.
I think H3 is the perfect example of the difference between YouTube and Twitch, because he streams his podcast on Twitch, and he's been doing that for the past.
Well, not anymore, but yeah.
Oh, really? He doesn't stream it on Twitch?
They don't even do it live anymore. They just record it and put it on YouTube.
Oh, that's weird. Why?
Well, they had a falling out with Twitch, I think.
Yeah, the Twitch thing was they got paid a lot of money to do the Twitch thing, because I know other people who were offered a lot of money to start streaming on Twitch.
Wow.
But we've actually, before you continue, we've actually had YouTubers who won't come on our podcast explicitly because they don't want to break the veil.
Wow.
Yes.
Of their character, of who they are, right?
Yeah. They're like, people know me as X, and I'm not going to come across as X on your podcast, and so I'm not going to do it. Yeah.
Wow.
Interesting.
It's the opposite of the
other way
iDubbbz
around.
thing,
Yeah.
With iDubbbz, he's like, I do one thing when I make my videos, but like, I'm a normal guy when we're going to talk, and he's totally comfortable with that
quality.
Yeah. It absolutely is. And Psychic Pebbles is like that too. We talked a couple episodes about when we talked with Michael Cusack, who works so closely with him, that if you watch Pebbles animations, you'd think this guy is like fueled by meth and just bonkers like every second of his life, and constantly hilarious. Well, no, the reality is that Zach can rip, 20 minutes of the most engaging, serious, informational conversation ever. Like it's shocking, right? And I can see some people love that. Like they loved hearing him talk in a straightforward way on this show twice. Other people, I'm sure, just wanted, like weird jokes, like as a constant stream, and they didn't get it. But no, I'm glad. I totally forgotten that, Kevin. That we've asked a couple people who just flat out did not want to play that game. They didn't want to have to be themselves.
It kind of makes me think of a few years back. PewDiePie did this video about forced positivity and how all the YouTubers will basically pretend to be this like very positive person, very happy, and how he was sick of it and he was doing it himself in the past and he didn't want to do it anymore. And when he made that video, it resonated with everybody and everyone liked him more for being honest. So I find it interesting that people don't see that authenticity is an attractive quality, and that, because the way I see it is, if you're not your authentic self, then you risk the chance of, when people discover who you really are, of them not liking you. But if you build a base of people who are there because they like you and they see that you're flawed and you don't pretend to be perfect, then you're not going to lose people when you make a mistake. Because, you might lose some extreme people, whatever, but in general, your core base is still going to be there because they understand what they got themselves into when they started following you.
Some people, though, I don't think they're fully comfortable with who they are authentically, and they don't want to share that, and because they don't even like it themselves.
That's true.
When you guys meet YouTubers, like for example, you get to VidCon and you're hanging out and meeting all of these people who you've seen videos of, maybe you've talked to them, maybe you haven't, whatever. Do you notice any kind of difference in the mismatches between your expectations and then who they are?
Well, I'll say first and foremost, both me and Sam are we're really not historically connected to like YouTube networks and communities of people. Like I know of channels that have, just a small following, and they're way more connected with other YouTubers, like specifically in certain communities than I am. Like I don't really talk with a lot of YouTubers. So we actually did go to VidCon last summer, and it was an interesting experience because neither of us were really that well connected with anyone, even though I think in our own right, we're somewhat successful, or we certainly have people who like our content, and I don't think we're complete like nobodies, but it was interesting because it's sort of a lot of people go in, I think, feeling that way, you know, like at these different parties or different things. VidCon itself, though, I mean, I could talk for hours about VidCon itself, but it is such a weird dynamic because you have these like 10-year-old kids with their families walking up. Meanwhile, you have like actual serious, you know, like filmmakers and YouTube stars there. YouTube is just too big, I think, and too diverse for one convention. I think you need, or one community. I think you need almost your own like age groups or something at least for events and communities like that, because VidCon is just, it's such a weird mashup of people.
Mm-hmm.
It is kind of like if there was like Music Con and just like all of music showed up and it's like, hello, I also do music. How are you? I am in Cannibal Corpse. It's nice to see you. Oh, hi, I'm Leanne Rhymes. Oh, it's nice to meet you, Leanne Rhymes. It is very similar to that.
Do you like using the ears that nature put on your body? Then you've come to the right place.
Not a friend to the deaf. Music Con.
Yeah. Well, this is kind of a theme, though. I mean, the theme of how a thing happens and whether it's making rules for it, like on YouTube. I'm looking at you guys, 20 minutes ago, I'm looking at the screen and seeing three people who have very different channels, all talk about rules that apply to them in the same way and how they exist in kind of a one-size-fits-all platform. That same thing happens when you walk into a VidCon. And yeah, you talk about the 10-year-olds with their parents and then the filmmakers and whatever. It was the weirdest thing when VidCon became about like broad online media, right? At one point, it really was just YouTube. And you'd like meet one person who was like killing it on Vimeo. But then eventually, like, I forget what year it was, but we rolled up and like 50% of the people there were, like Instagram and TikTok type people. It just wasn't even YouTube. It really was like, hey, you do something on the internet? That's cool. So do I. It's weird on the dynamic on the social side.
I get the impression that maybe you can actually sort of vouch for this. I feel like I didn't go 2016, but I think 2017, the first time I went, was sort of a pivotal year because that was when Jake Paul, Logan Paul, and they brought all these fans over from Vine, all these kids mostly. It was insane. I mean, that was the year that they were like on the fountain, which is in front of the entrance to the Anaheim Convention Center. Logan Paul was there vlogging, and you just saw I was there in person. I saw swarms of kids, hundreds of them, just crowding on this fountain. And it was bizarre. It was like this moment that the strange comment sections of YouTube and fans of TikTok kind of bled into real life. And then ever since then, every year since then, VidCon was kind of more, I think, catering to that style a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was primarily for young kids is what my perception of VidCon was the only time I went.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, what was your perception? Because you kind of went in cold last year with me.
Yeah, like I went to VidCon thinking like, oh, I'm gonna meet a bunch of cool YouTubers or something, and then I was like, why the fuck did I pay for this event? Like, I paid like $200 just to. The convention was basically nothing. It was just like a bunch of companies setting up their little promotions for their products, and everyone was like 8 years old with their parents. And it seemed like the real convention that I wanted to attend was the hotel lobby next door where all the YouTubers were getting drunk and like the parties that were happening at night.
Yeah.
My word of advice, by the way, VidCon, if anyone wants to go to VidCon, is don't pay for the actual convention. Just fly out to LA and hang out around the convention.
Well, people did meetups outside too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we need to make our own convention.
Yeah.
TanaCon?
What's it going to be called? GushCon.
GushCon.
I'd go to GushCon.
Create Unknown Con. That could work. Create Con. I don't.
The con.
We're planning on meeting some people from our patrons and stuff at VidCon this year, and then coronavirus hit, and we weren't able to do that. It's funny that you mentioned Vine. That was the first really kind of other thing other than YouTube that had its own stars. I remember in the early days, the only other thing that was there besides YouTube was Blip TV, which I don't even know if you guys remember Blip TV, but
really.
that is long since gone. And that's how old I am.
Yeah, Blip. I
How
remember
old
back in
are
the day.
you, actually, out of curiosity?
30, almost 37.
Okay.
You
Not that
can
old.
see Kevin's full bio on the website WikiFeet.
I was just on there, actually.
Were you on
Speaking
there?
of age-
Like an article was on there, or were you just browsing?
I was just browsing.
So
think
I
I was
can't
looking
see
at your
slush
page,
feet
actually.
on WikiFeet.
No, not yet. Gotta
Speaking
be a
of
Patreon
age,
for that.
I think that I think age is becoming more, it's going to sound maybe weird, but I think age has become more irrelevant the more our lives are tied to the internet, in the sense that it's like I feel like sometimes I'm in the same space as someone who's like I know YouTubers who are like 18, 17, and they're doing something completely different with their channels, but maybe I met them at VidCon. Like, this is actually the case with someone I know named Elixir, who he's kind of like
Elixir's
this
awesome.
vlogging. Yeah, he is. He's
Yeah.
cool. He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
Cool kid. I met him at VidCon 2017, and it's because I was doing some stream and he was like following me around, and he's like 13. He was 13 at the time. Now he's 16, and we still keep in touch, like on Discord and stuff, but it's just, I'm learning that it's almost like I used to think, like I'm getting old, or I'm doing this or whatever. I'm 25, but I see people, not even just YouTubers, like comedians and stuff too, or in their 30s and their 40s, and even people like these online father figures that I talked about in my last video that I just made. I mean, Joe Rogan's like 50, and that's, I think age is less of a limiting factor. It's more like, how in touch are you with the community, with the internet, with the culture.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look, I mean, we're all in there are a lot of group chats and stuff on Twitter and on, Discord servers and stuff like that. But we're in the same one with a couple people who are like 16, 17, 18, killing it on YouTube. There are a couple elderlies in there like me, but it makes no difference. Like, it's all a bunch of people hanging out talking about YouTube. And if you're interested in whatever topic is being discussed, you talk about it. And if somebody read a transcript of all those conversations, you really would never be able to point to ages on a lot of the stuff.
Just look at
you
Keemstar.
certainly wouldn't say it's weird. Well, yeah, Keemstar is, I know he's 40 because when he, it was a couple months ago, he posted about being 40, and I thought, well, this is weird because you can begin to draw from Social Security at 62. The standard is 65, but you can start at 62 if you want. And I thought, that's 22 years away for him. He turned 18 22 years ago. So Keemstar is literally at the halfway point of adult eligibility to draw from Social Security. That's a weird milestone.
Yeah, and yet
That's a
when you
weird
look
thought.
at his conduct online.
Well, it's true.
You would never think that he's older than, I don't know,
Right.
19 or something.
But of course, the problem, I think within the Smash community specifically, we've seen this manifest, and other communities, I suspect. Minecraft, which
Gaming
is of
communities
course
in general.
right. Which is of course when you have this kind of space, like, and as you just said, 99% of the time, it doesn't even matter, like, really what age you are, because we're just talking about YouTube or this or that or different things. But certain predatory people, they take advantage of that, and they'll, as we saw with the Smash community. I mean, there's all these things coming out about underage girls, underage boys being just sexual misconduct with older people in the community, and harassment, and just pretty bad things, that's the other problem, of course, with these internet spaces, is that, as a professional Smash player, someone like Zero, he is occupying the same space as maybe a 16-year-old girl who's
Or
also
like
in the
30,
community,
even younger.
even younger. And that's not, it's actually not weird that they're in the same community, but it is weird, obviously, when they're interacting in a certain way. So that's
and you have to think it
side.
wouldn't happen like the case with Zero, for example. It probably wouldn't happen if he wasn't occupying a space with such a diverse age group. I doubt that he would be actively going out of his way to find some 14-year-old girl or something. I mean, I don't know him, but I have my doubts. But I feel like because they occupy the same space, this stuff happens where in his head, he thinks it's okay or something at the time.
It's like a coworker, like being near a coworker or something.
His perception of the person he's talking with is dictated by their common interest rather than life experience differences.
And a lot of these guys are also I think it's worth mentioning. A lot of them are they're not exactly the most socially informed or aware a lot of the times when they're so deep into a gaming community or any kind of online community. And so they might not be as socially aware to be like, okay, this is wrong, or I'm not saying that's an excuse, obviously, but I'm just saying this is another factor, I think, that leads to these problems.
What do you guys think can be done about that sort of thing? Because is there any regulation or something that could occur within the industry itself? I have no idea. I'm completely unfamiliar with that whole like esports side of the world.
I think that the first step is definitely drawing awareness to it, attention to it, because I think because of what happened in the Smash community and all the drama that occurred and all the misconduct that was revealed over the last couple months, that we'll see, this is just a guess, of course, I could be wrong, but I think that we'll see in the future that there will be less of this behavior. It won't be tolerated. People will be more vigilant about looking out for it. People will be more, people like Zero who did stuff like that are probably, or who are in his position in the sense that like they're a top player right now and they haven't done anything wrong yet. They're probably going to be more aware of the age of the people they're interacting with. The lines will be drawn more clearly, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But did anybody get banned for any of this? I honestly don't even really know the details of it. So were people banished from the tournaments and stuff like that?
A bunch of them are not allowed to go to tournaments anymore. Twitch dropped people. Some people, people got banned on social media platforms. All of those people got banned out of the community pretty much. I don't think some of them, depending on what they did, I guess some of them are going to be allowed to return based on some stipulations maybe, but I can't imagine like the ones who are especially egregious, like Sinpai. I would be pretty disappointed if I found that she was ever allowed to commentate at a tournament again, to be honest.
Was she the one who kind of like began dating a very young guy? He was like 13, and that evolved into something that it really shouldn't have. That was Senpai, you said?
She had a boyfriend, but then she started getting sexual with like this 13-year-old kid who I swear to God looked like he was 8 years old in the pictures of when they were like,
you're not wrong about that. Yeah.
It's like really gross.
When I saw the photos, it was obvious that this is absolutely a middle school kid. Like there's no way, no mistaking a mature for his age look physically.
No, it was like, it was like actually disgusting to see.
It was pretty awkward. Yeah.
I think going forward, it makes sense to me that you would continue to see some sort of community enforcement. I think you have to have that. Like these people getting this is the part of the, I don't even know what to call it. I want to say the Me Too movement, but it's more like with what I've seen in the past month or two on Twitch and YouTube, even it's like an online Me Too movement or something like that. And I think the good side of that, obviously, is that people's voices who were victimized are able to speak up and hold those abusers accountable. Mm-hmm. And that's definitely good, and that needs to continue. I think there's going to be some collateral damage, and we've seen that too, where there are people who get bunched up when they maybe shouldn't be in these accusations. And that's, I'm not trying to dismiss that. Like that's a problem too. And it's just, it's tricky because you need the community to keep these rules of, to keep people accountable, right? I mean, who else is going to?
Yeah, I guess the problem is that now you have to hold the community leaders accountable as well. And it's like, it's a difficult problem to solve.
Yeah.
I want to ask about something you said a few minutes ago about how generally all of these things, from YouTube to Twitch to games to whatever, there's this range of ages where people are hanging out, and it's this confluence of all sorts of different people at different points in their lives doing the same thing, and it works really well. Okay, so you get that, but then there's this section of places like Twitter where there's like, I'd call it almost militance about ages. Okay. And we see this where it's like, this guy was born 3 hours before this girl he dated. He's a pedophile.
Yeah.
You know, it goes beyond, like, we just talked about some really obvious instances of situations being inappropriate, but we've also seen this real tightening of rules on things like ages, you know, where people are held to account for things that 5 years ago, somebody would have looked at it and thought, well, that's probably an unwise situation. You know, they shouldn't do that, or it's not going to work out or something. And now it's straight up,
it's pedophilia.
Cancel somebody. How do you square those two things? That on one side, everybody's coming together and hanging out and having a good time, and we're all better off for it. And then there's a subset where the rules are now 100 times stronger than they used to be.
Yeah, Twitter does that a lot, where they just make everything way more strict.
The thing is, is that the average person who's saying, oh, well, this 19-year-old and 17-year-old are together, that's pedophilia? Because you do see stuff like that, but I feel like usually that's extreme people who are just very loud. I don't know, because I feel like the whole age thing is so all over the map, where you have some people who will say like, oh, well, they're both relatively close in age, it's fine, where another person will look at it and be like, that's completely disgusting. And then you'll also have people say, this is sort of like, maybe I'm moving topics a little bit, but I think it's related, where you have age of consent in regards to kids who want to transition. Is for some reason, it seems like the people who would say a 20-year-old and a 17-year-old is pedophilia would simultaneously say that a 15-year-old knows enough about their body to begin transitioning. And I don't see why those wouldn't be the same thing. You know what I mean? Because they're like, oh, you're this like age, you're not fully developed, you're just a child. It doesn't matter if you're 17. Meanwhile, that logic doesn't apply the other way. And so I feel like the whole age topic of discussion is just a mess that maybe needs to be.
I don't know exactly. Yeah, too many examples. I think I know what you're talking about in regards to people being very strict about like ages and stuff. And I think that can be a problem. I don't know exactly if that's a huge issue right now, though. Is it? Do you know of any examples of like where? Because I'm trying to think how pervasive.
Do you mean like
really
examples
is.
to go beyond just people being loud on Twitter?
No, I mean even just people being loud on Twitter about like age differences that maybe you and me would scoff at as being a big deal. I mean, obviously there's a big deal when it's a minor versus an adult.
I can think of an example. Mike Headley, the Twitter user who's always getting banned. I remember
Didn't
seeing
he get banned
him
again in like 10 minutes after getting back allowed on?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. I think Wang posted a banning speed run.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I saw that. There was a time where there was some girl who was 17 and she was on OnlyFans, but you're not allowed to be on OnlyFans unless you're 18.
Oh, right.
And he was saying that everyone who follows her is a groomer, but and then it shows pictures of her, and it's like no one who's following that account, if like she's lying about her age, there's no way that anyone knows that she's lying about her age. They're not groomers, and he's basically he was attacking people on Twitter, calling them groomers, and I feel like if he heard me, he would say I'm like a pedophile enabler or something. If you heard me saying this right now.
So okay, I see what you're saying now. I get exactly what you're saying, and I've seen that actual tweet. Here's my problem with that. Maybe this is controversial to say, but the emphasis is always on groomers, which obviously exist. But in this case, it's more like reverse grooming or entrapment or something like that, where it's like, and that's not to say, I mean, personally, you know, okay, we all know guys. Personally, I'm not attracted to like girls that are younger than me, generally speaking. But
Mhm.
we all know guys that, 18-year-old girls, 19-year-old girls are appealing to them, even if they're, 20, in their mid 20s or something like that. And whether you think that's wrong or right or whatever you think about that, the point is a lot of girls can look very mature and look of age and look, like a woman, even when they're not exactly. And obviously there's only a certain point to where that's acceptable, but this girl that you're talking about who was 17 on OnlyFans, and I saw the picture, like she looks like she has a ton of makeup on. She's got like, it's very like provocative imagery. And it's again on a site that's like 18 plus. The guys who are following her, they're not groomers. They're actually getting basically led on in like a kind of,
the platform it says it's 18 plus. So why would they think otherwise?
Right. Like the responsibility is always put on the men, and it's never put at all on like the woman in this case, or the girl in this case. It's like, or the site.
To be fair, Mike Henley was criticizing her directly as well, but he was also criticizing everyone that followed her. So it was like,
right. Okay. Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like you need to have,
I think there have been several cases of underage guys on OnlyFans as well, engaging in the same stuff, where somebody looked at it and thought, well, if they're on this platform, they have to be 18 and not thinking too hard about it. That's a really murky area, on who's at fault with that. Because hey, on Twitter, how many, do you think people really respect the 13 years old on YouTube and Twitter, that you have to
no.
when you make an account, the box comes up and it's like, you must be at least 13.
Or for viewing porn, for viewing porn. Do you think anyone who the first time they watched porn was actually waited till they're 18? Fuck no. And that's really the problem. Everything we're saying really just, it's not about one person or this group or that group. Really what it comes down to is the platform, the internet, the medium. The medium just makes it so easy, whether it's viewing things you shouldn't view or being in places and communities that you shouldn't be interacting with this person. It removes all these barriers, for better or worse. And we're talking about these ways in which it's unfortunately worse. I happen to think that pornography being so accessible, for example, to like young boys or young girls is a big problem too. But all that, the only thing stopping that is a pop-up that every single kid ignores. I certainly did the first time I watched porn.
I know for a fact that every single person who listens to this podcast, who's in our Discord, and absolutely everyone who's a patron, and from the tots up to the baby gang, only viewed pornography after they were 18 and had a note signed by their parents and pastor. I know this for a fact. Every single one did.
Yeah.
Or rabbi. Yeah, that's right. So I want to push this a little bit into the culture around that part of online life, right? And that OnlyFans culture, which Glink, I know you did a video about OnlyFans. You did a video about parasocial relationships. Slush, you touch on some of these elements in your videos, like these themes. Make it in less explicit ways. What is happening with the idea of making something like an OnlyFans and then having a community of people? I don't even know the right word for it. Because it seems to range from, it seems to range from, I like that, I want to see this thing, so I pay for this thing, the same way people do with a Patreon for a podcast, to almost like a simping lifestyle that's really weird. You get the Reddit posts that make their way around Twitter where it's like, I'm in $4,000 of debt and haven't paid my rent in 3 months, but I just upped, all of my OnlyFans subs. That seems unwise, but that's the extreme on the other end. What is happening with this?
Yeah, I think you have it right that there's kind of two different camps. There's, let's be honest, like, let's just speak a little bit. I'm going to speak a little bit bluntly here. There's guys who just want to get their nut off and they're not trying to form like some sort of relationship or get married to the model or whatever. It's just eye candy for them. Okay. And then there's a certain camp of guys where maybe it's not even about that, or maybe that's just part of it, but really they're desperate for female attention. They're desperate for a girlfriend, any of these things. And I think that for me is the main concern when it comes to OnlyFans and things like it. I think you see a lot of that happening where it's girls, the smart girls, the successful ones, they're successful. And I've interviewed them, I've talked with them because they interact with their fans. They make it seem like a relationship for it's not, but it's like a simulated one.
Yeah.
And I don't blame that. They're using the site. They're doing it. They're making money. The girls, I mean, and a lot of them maybe have aspirations far beyond OnlyFans, and it's just a stepping stone for them and whatnot. But the end result, I think, is that you were getting the value of it's hard to, it's like the sexual market value of men is now lower because it's like to even talk with a girl, you need to pay for her attention, and it's fake anyways. And you might say, well, that's only men who are desperate enough, blah, blah, blah. Right. But what I'm saying is when you create a market that's big, it's like, okay, well, that's now becoming, it's changing the perception of men. It's like a girl who's attractive and she's like, I could just make an OnlyFans and get 50 simps to pay me $5 a month. Why would I waste time with this guy or talking to this guy? I think it changes the dynamic and the landscape a lot of dating, of relationships, these kinds of things.
I think that the girls who are providing a simulated girlfriend experience for guys who are hooked on OnlyFans because they're lonely, I find that like sinister, I guess you could say, because it's almost like they're preying on the fact that they're making the guy feel like, oh, like maybe, just maybe, we'll get together and we'll start a relationship, and they're just, it's like an empty promise that they're like the cheese at the end of the string, you know, running on the treadmill.
It's like in Dumb and Dumber anywhere. When she says, yeah, it's a 1 in a million chance or something. Exactly. He's like, so you're telling me there's a chance? He's all pumped about it.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. So I find that like a little bit immoral to essentially lie to someone. I mean, it's not an explicit lie. It's like an indirect lie, but I don't approve of it. That specific, like, I don't approve of what's it called? I don't know.
Leading on.
Yeah.
Leading on men and
essentially, yeah.
And
preying
I
on
think,
that.
But I think OnlyFans highlights it highlights deeper problems that were already there, though, of course, because if we didn't have what I would say is a growing subset of very lonely men who are desperate enough to pay for something like that, and it's not on the, like, I don't even blame the men, because it's like, that's the other thing is, I mean, look at the world we live in now, where the most valuable jobs are on the computer, are staying home, are remote. And for a lot of people, that's a very lonely lifestyle. And even if they are employed, you know, so it's a strange time. And I think that's highlighted with the relationships. Yeah.
I think there's a really interesting contrast here between OnlyFans, the way somebody has to communicate with their community on an OnlyFans, this relationship you're describing, and something like a Vsauce 2 and what Kevin does. They seem conceptually similar to me in that, like Kevin, your content is a relationship with your subscribers. Like, you seem to want to make videos that make anybody who watches them feel good about pursuing kind of smart things. You want to make them feel like they've ended a video and know more than they did and feel better about themselves after that. You want to encourage that. You want to be approachable. YouTube, how many seminars and stuff have we seen going back however many years where they encourage community development in exactly the same way as you guys are describing with sexuality, but it just doesn't have the sex element. Is there a difference that I'm not seeing?
I think so. I think the biggest difference is with a YouTube channel, there is no, at least there shouldn't be, an empty promise that is never going to be fulfilled. You know, you're establishing a relationship with your viewers and you're forming community, but there's no promise that it's going to go further than it already does. You know what I mean? Like, sure, you might be communicating with each other via Twitter or Discord and stuff like that, but that's all, you know, that's all fair game. You're saying that you're going to do that, you do that, but you're not saying like, oh, like, You keep following me, keep watching my videos, and subscribe to me on Patreon, and like you'll be like my best friend, and we're gonna hang out in real life all the time. You know, there are definitely fans of creators. It's probably especially on Twitch who have that mentality. They think that donating is gonna get them they'll be able to buy friendship. But I've never seen a streamer actually say it themselves or insinuate it. In fact, I've seen streamers like Mizkif straight up say, you can donate to me all you want, but it's not going to mean we're friends.
Yeah. And I would, just to add on to that, I would even say also there is a pretty big distinction between the feeling you have as a viewer, let's say, of seeing a YouTuber, seeing someone and wanting to be their friend. You know, you might have a feeling for that and you might have a desire to do that. But I would also say it's just naturally going to be way more enticing to the sexual side of that. When you're sexually attracted to someone, those feelings are going to be even more intense. And, you know, so it's, in other words, like I can almost overlook a little bit if somebody is acting friendly as a YouTuber, acting like you're going to be friends, let's say, and you have the perception that you're going to be friends and you don't end up being friends, versus buying into the idea that this girl might be interested in you. It's playing with a deeper set of emotions is what I would say.
There was a little bit of research that popped the other day. A guy tweeted it. What's his name? Rolf Deegan. Do you follow him, Kevin? Is he a psychologist?
I don't know. I do follow him. I don't know what his academic background is, but all he tweets are research papers from a pretty wide swath of scientific disciplines. But yeah, he's a great follow because literally he just tweets different research. That's all. Without commentary, which is what I like about it. He doesn't editorialize. He just, here's the research, and then that's it. Yeah, he's a good follow.
A thing he tweeted about a week ago, really, was a paper in one of the journals on Sage. And the title of it was, "Sexual Arousal Makes People Project More Sexual Interest Onto the Target That Evoked the Arousal." And this clicked with me because we'd been talking about a lot of this stuff, and I've been reading articles about it, seeing videos about it, looking at kind of all the different angles people have here. And I'm thinking, well, if you've got a system where, so it's kind of a reciprocal, escalating
like
reciprocal horniness. How about that? Where
like attachment, right?
Yeah. And so, for example, if it's something like a strip club, if a stripper expresses arousal and interest in a customer, they are in turn going to respond with heightened interest because they see it as a kind of safe thing. Well, if your business is that, and this escalating kind of arousal that bounces back and forth and gets a little heavier each time on either party, that seems like it could get weird after a while, like it could get out of control. What do you do when, if you're a stripper, let's get somebody to do a lap dance and it's all done in 15 minutes, and that's the end of, for, to use a clinical word, the transaction. But if it's an OnlyFans, you would want somebody to stick around and sub month after month after month. So how do you behave to make sure somebody is going to subscribe to you for 12 or 18 months? It seems like you would have to facilitate this escalating thing, right? And in turn, your viewers would too. And you get these crazy simps who are sacrificing rent money to really keep having this relationship built on a promise that can't be fulfilled. Like, is that a logical conclusion to this? Because that's what was swimming through my head when I read that. And I thought, oh, this seems really significant.
I think that, I think what it is it's the commodification of lonely men. It's the monetization, capitalizing off of lonely men. And I think you're absolutely right. I think it just creates that situation where it's a reciprocal thing and where it grows and grows. And you get these, like Pokimane was criticized, who's a Twitch streamer, who, by the way, she's really not someone who I think does this very much, but she's just a very popular Twitch streamer. And so she has her own crazy simps or whatever. And those are often memed, but I think we're going to see more of that. I think that's going to just be a more common thing. I mean, this whole month is called on Twitter. I'm reading, it's like no simp September. Like that's the thing now.
It makes me worried. It makes me worried for these girls who are doing this, that they're in danger, or that they're putting themselves in danger for attracting someone who is going to be obsessive to the point of something dangerous could occur. I think that's very scary to me.
That's true too. That's the other side of it, is like, yeah, when people get so obsessed, and these girls all have stories of someone who's a stalker, who's they had to move addresses or something, there's always this crazy shit going on with girls who have to experience. I mean, I think even male YouTubers experience some level of fanatic fans, right? Like sometimes, but I definitely think attractive girls have it pretty extreme with that.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to be on YouTube or a streamer to have creepy, weird guys obsessed with you. I have had like plenty of friends over the years that have had really weird interactions, just because they're a bartender, right? And this guy comes to the bar every weekend and he's getting really creepy and he's staying late until, the bar closes, and we have to like walk her to her car because, this guy's here, and what are we going to do? So, I don't know, that just freaks me out, worried about their own safety in these types of situations and these relationships that are getting created, that are a facade.
And
you talked about also commodifying. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say it's also, that's the other part of it, is that it's also sort of a facade for these girls who maybe they don't know all these risks associated with it going into it. They just see the dollar signs and they're like, well, this will work out well. But of course there's all these liabilities of guys who, can really.
I wonder about that. I feel like a lot of girls are pretty aware of the predatory nature of men out there. So I do wonder how cognizant they are of what they're getting themselves into by engaging in this stuff online. And also something that I talked about in my video about the Just Chatting section of Twitch, the Twitch IRL one, was how the growing presence of female content creators on Twitch that are intentionally engaging in this kind of thing is sort of poisoning the well for girl streamers who aren't engaging in that, because now there's this expectation that they're going to put out on camera or act like they're someone's girlfriend to the chat. And like Greg and I both actually interviewed the same girl, Kazooie Girl, and she said that she's been streaming for over 7 years, and in the last few years it's gotten so much worse where people, if she's in the Just Chatting section at all, people will just assume that she's going to be doing, like, she's going to bend over for donations or like say like, oh, hi honey, and like all that stuff, and she's just not like that at all, and she hates that the environment has gotten that way.
You mentioned the commodification of lonely guys. What happens with the lonely girls? What are they doing right now? Because there are a lot of them. If you go on Twitter, it's the same. You get the same kind of loneliness scores from guys and girls in your feed. You get the same senses that there are just as many lonely girls out there. Why are they not responding in the same ways?
Well, if anything, they're on the other side of it, aren't they? Like they wouldn't be looking for male streamers to give them attention. They would be looking to stream to get attention, if anything, because that's just how the marketplace is.
But I think to your point, there is this, it is a situation where it might seem like girls are benefiting, and they might be financially in the short run if you're attractive, if you're on this site, if you're willing to do this, like, sure. But there is a lot of loneliness created for girls too. And I think it manifests a little differently, because for them, it's more like, I don't know, I shouldn't say for sure, but my perception is that some girls, they almost just want to check out. It's like, yeah, sure, they can, let's say they can stream, they can get attention online, but they don't necessarily want that kind of attention, or they don't want it all the time. And, or that attention itself is just fleeting. It's not real, as oftentimes online attention is. I think you see this a lot with girls who they'll post selfies a lot on Twitter or Instagram, whatever. And, you'll get likes, you'll get comments, but how many of those people are you actually talking to? How many of those people do you actually care about, and vice versa? It's just fleeting social media attention. I think that's the struggles. I think that's the struggles that a lot of girls uniquely face compared to guys.
Well, and there are studies that represent this that I've read that are extremely worrying about the levels of increase in anxiety and depression, particularly among girls, that can be correlated like pretty closely with the rise of certain social media platforms such as Instagram. And it's a really, really concerning problem because of, because, we don't want that. Why would we would love if everybody's depression and anxiety were going down, not up. But with girls in particular, it has seemed to gone up a lot more than guys. And again, I don't know what can be done about that, but it seems like a problem not a lot of people are talking about, and maybe we should be.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I don't think there's an easy solution, but I do think that connecting with people is always going to help. Overall, is always going to be better than not. And with the girls specifically, I think I know what you're talking about. I think I saw the study about how Instagram use amongst like preteen girls has even caused a spike in preteen depression and suicide, which is horrifying that that's even a thing. But I've noticed that too, like just younger and younger people, whether I've interacted with them on Discord or whatever, it's like, wait, you're like 14, 13 and you're depressed, or like you feel depressed? Like that's just a foreign concept. When I was that age, that seems like it was way, way less a thing. So that's pretty
It's
terrifying.
interesting because certain forms of social media like Instagram and Twitter probably heighten depression and anxiety, because you see other people engaging in activities that you aren't. It seems like you're missing out and all this stuff. But then you have stuff, I don't know if you would call, is Discord a form of social media? Because I feel like Discord is a place where people can connect in a much more real way over voice and video chat. And that probably is a case where it helps people who are lonely.
I think Discord helps, or it can help for sure.
Yeah. I guess it's not exactly a social media though, as much as it's a communication platform.
Yeah. It's trying to be both sometimes with the servers and such, but the main way I use it is to hang out with like friends and stuff.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see, as you guys talk about this stuff, see what's happening in the episode chat with the patrons in Discord. Kino, the Kino Corner, who you guys both know quite well, said, Instagram is for girls, YouTube is for boys, which is a painting with a bit of a broad brush. But I think the point that he's making on it is that visual platform seems to fit the interests and kind of needs that its users really have.
Sense.
Yeah.
I think YouTube
and
is
Dojangles,
also...
who is a she, said, yeah, that's not true. I have Instagram and YouTube. She's got her own channel and is a pretty big presence in several different YouTube communities. And there are a lot of people like her too. So, it's not a rule that fits for everybody, but
no.
Is there a, we know
that YouTube is definitely
a general pattern,
predominantly male audience in general. I
think
it
depends on the community too, right? Because there's, YouTube is so diverse. Like there's the makeup community, there's the beauty community, there's the commentary, there's the fitness. I mean, there's just so many different. There's like a female fitness community too, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I almost, that's the thing with YouTube is I don't feel like YouTube is really a niche thing at all. I think YouTube is. It is just media. It is just new media, and anything you want has its own community, its own thing. So I don't know if I would agree with that actually, that guys, even if the most of the viewers of YouTube are male, I don't think there's anything about the site that makes it.
Is that empirically it's male dominated in terms of audience, but YouTube is so big that there are massive niches that can be completely flip-sided, where it's like extremely female dominated and stuff like that.
Yeah, from the data that I've gotten from people I've talked to at YouTube, it's not that big of a swing. It may be like 5 percentage points or so.
Wow, that's nothing.
Yeah, it's like there's a slant, but it's not gigantic. So yeah, you're right. They're really spread out. I guess perhaps what that may or may not reflect is how what the slant is of hardcore users, meaning people who leave comments, people who have a lot of subscriptions, people who use their account all the time and watch other YouTubers. So that is to say, like, I'm not sure if a lot of girls, go onto YouTube to watch music videos, for instance, because that's the big thing. YouTube is actually just a music platform.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's like music, like gaming sort of underneath there. And then like everything else is way, 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 way at the bottom. So, but obviously, I've talked about this a lot before. My audience is predominantly male, and I've always tried to diversify that. Luckily, TikTok for me has been quadruple the female viewership that I get on YouTube on TikTok.
How do you feel about TikTok, by the way? Because that's something I've been very hesitant to even make a profile on. I mean, how do you use it, Kevin? And how do you like it?
I don't use it in terms of watching it. I only use it to upload. But what I like about it is the stakes are about 35 billion times lower than uploading on YouTube.
Yeah.
Uploading on YouTube, the stakes are so incredibly high and the pressure is so incredibly high to make some sort of magnum opus every time you upload something.
Yeah.
Whereas on TikTok, I mean, people are watching maybe for 15 seconds if the thing lasts that long.
Right.
So the expectations could not be lower. It's really night and day. They're like opposite platforms for me. So it's really nice to be able to just introduce a concept, like introduce some sort of paradox or like circular logic problem or riddle. And that's it. And it takes, a couple of minutes to record and I'm done. And it doesn't have to be this like long drawn out process of like meticulously worrying about the intro to this concept to like hook people and get them to keep watching and like pay it off later and blah, 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 blah. I mean, you guys know how that goes. So yeah, as like a content creator, TikTok is, people are going to, I know people hate TikTok, but it is a bit of a breath of fresh air for me because it allows me to just make stuff without feeling like, I don't know, like it has to be the most important thing in the world.
That makes sense. Totally. It's low commitment. And it's
more casual.
You could still get a point across. So
The low stakes part.
What I make of what?
Slush, when are you making TikToks?
I actually technically have a TikTok, but not to
First
get political,
tonight.
I don't want to use it because of China.
Yeah, that's the other concern. Is like, where's my information going? Is it going to be used for facial recognition technology? Are they going to have a profile on me? Like, that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, I don't give them access to anything. No microphone, no camera.
Oh, really?
No.
Definitely the way to go.
Yeah, I just turn that stuff all off all the time.
Okay, so you like pre-record it and then upload it or something.
Yeah, you can upload it, on desktop or whatever. So I just turn off all the permissions to my phone.
Okay, that might be the move.
Yeah.
Definitely the way to go.
Kevin mentioned low stakes and how it's nice not to commit tremendous amounts of effort to something that, when it does well, it's incredible. It's the best to look at the studio data in YouTube and see, tens or hundreds or thousands of people are watching something concurrently. That's an amazing thing after all of that effort. But Slush, what's it like to put a whole lot of effort into a video, months maybe, and then have somebody steal it?
Oh God, yeah. It's not.
What
it's
happened
not a
there?
good feel. So that happened with my Rectal video. I put 9 months into the video, and then what happened was a Twitch streamer watched it on stream, which I was fine with. But then someone who wasn't even the streamer themselves took it upon themselves to upload it to their YouTube channel, and then I asked them to take it down. And they deleted my comment, so then I struck the video, like I copy struck them. And then they just sent me emails for like a week about how I'm a big piece of shit and I'm so greedy and like all these negative comments. And it was really, really frustrating. I mean, eventually I just ignored them. And this person also was harassing me on Twitch. Anytime I would be in any like stream chat that they happened to notice I was in, they would just start spamming messages about me and stuff. It's really annoying.
you had an esports place take elements of your videos too, though. Didn't that?
Right. Yes. Okay.
Go on.
That was much
So
worse.
you've been hit by thievery and bad actors on several different fronts, haven't you? What did you do to make this happen? Why are you such a good target for?
I think what happened with the Score Esports. I think the reason I don't even know. I didn't realize their channel existed when I started my channel, and my first video was a history of a Smash player, and I guess that they had a few months earlier started a very similar series called The Story of. I didn't know about their channel at the time, so maybe that's why they instantly took notice. They took notice of my channel within a few months. I had like 10,000 subscribers, and the first time I ever was suspicious that they were copying me was I made this video about Shroud, and it instantly started getting attention. And then a couple weeks later, or 3 weeks later, they put out a documentary on Shroud. But no one had put out any kind of videos on Shroud like that prior. And I couldn't help but feel like they saw my video and decided, oh, well, this guy's getting a lot of success on this topic, we should copy the topic, which is fine. Like, technically they're allowed to do that. And I actually knew someone who their friend worked for the Score Esports, and he confirmed for me that they were well aware of my channel and that they didn't like me. But I didn't feel like that was enough to... I didn't feel like I could really say much about that. So I kind of stayed silent about it. Then later they put out a Dr. Disrespect video, and I didn't notice it at the time, but they literally stole a clip from my video, put it in their video, not realizing that the clip from my video had nothing to do with Dr. Disrespect. It was like footage. I remember I was talking about his early childhood, and for footage of it, I searched Disney World 1980s on YouTube and just put some random person's home video for like 3 seconds, and they put that clip in their video. I didn't realize that until
That's
later.
Too much of a coincidence.
Yeah. And then later, my friend pointed out when they uploaded their Summit 1G video, this time it was different, because in the past I had done, the history of this person, the history of that person, and then they did the same type of thing, the story of this person, the story of that person. And I was like, you know what? I can't, that's just a person's history. Like, I can't claim ownership of this. But then they did a video on Summit 1G, which was exactly like mine, where the observation, and no one had made this observation before me, was that in a time when everyone was obsessed with Fortnite, Summit 1G was compromising his mental health to keep playing it, and then decided, I'm not going to do this anymore. It's tearing me apart from the inside. I'm going to do what I want, and then found success doing that. And it was a whole video about like a lesson in sometimes you got to just do what makes you happy, and then success might find you anyways. And they took that everything, like they took sentences that I said, just everything about that, and they did the same thing, and then they just slightly extended it because it was a year later, from being about playing one game to they made it about playing that game, and then they added another game. Valorant had just come out, and they were like, oh, and now he's at the top of Valorant doing what he wants, which wasn't even correct analysis, because he was at the top with Valorant simply because Valorant was a new game and everyone was hype about it, and he was a former CSGO player. But yeah, I called them out on it because someone pointed it out to me. And when I found out about their video, there were already comments on their video saying, you stole this from Slush. This is like Slush's video. So I decided to call them out. And it was very frustrating, but it was also kind of a relief, because in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, these guys are fucking watching my every move. I every time I do something, I was like afraid to talk about it on Twitter. I was like, oh, if I tell Twitter what I'm doing, the Score Esports is just going to beat me to it. But now that I was able to call them out publicly and have Scarce and the Quartering report on it and stuff, I feel a little safer. I feel like now they're going to be afraid to copy me. So it's kind of nice in that sense.
I was really disappointed when that happened. Yeah, and Marco in the chat says, like, that's when you know it's good, when somebody's taking it. They're not taking something that sucks. So it's a weird validation in that way. But when that dropped for you, when that situation came up, I know a couple people who are in the business side of the esports community, and I shot you a DM and said, I'm gonna take this to them and see what's up. Man, they wouldn't touch that. And that was so disappointing. It was really good that the Quartering and some others took it up, because, it helps to be outside the community on that sort of thing. But the people right within, they would absolutely not engage in any kind of policing their own community there. And that was extremely disappointing, because if that happened, if that happened on the education side, nobody would really have I can't imagine. I mean, Kevin, tell me if I'm wrong, but I can't imagine people being shy about saying, hey man, make your own videos. Like don't steal from small educational creators. There's enough information in the world to warrant original videos. Do that. But for some reason, the esports people didn't.
Well, I think
I never noticed that in EDU community happening. In all my days, I don't remember.
It's definitely one of those cases where people don't want to be the one to call out their peers, because it's like we all look the other way because we don't want it to look bad on us from our superiors or something like that. That's how I see it, at least. And also, when I made my video calling them out, it revealed to me just how common this was, because a lot of people came to me or even were inspired to make their own videos calling other companies out. There was this one guy, CZ's World. He does like horror movie related stuff, and he had been on multiple occasions copied by Screen Rant. And there was other people who told me like the score had stolen what they did, and it wasn't just in the form of video content either. There were articles that were doing this. I even got people message me on Instagram who do cooking stuff, and they were showing how big corporations were essentially stealing they would come up with like original designs. So let's say, for example, they made a cake during when the last Star Wars movie came out. It was like a cake that was recreating a scene from Star Wars, and then they showed how the next day this big company posted a cake that was almost exactly the same. Like every detail was.
They stole the cake.
They ripped up. They just recreated his cake, and it was just like, this is such a pervasive problem throughout all corporate content, it seems, and no one is. I don't even know how it's working out, because I think that in the case of, let's say, the Score Esports, when they copied my video, like, who copied my video? Was it the writer? Did the guy narrating on camera know it was a copy of my video, or was he just doing what he was told? So it's a huge problem.
Kevin, we talked about that when we talked about stealing tweets. We talked about Amy Schumer's situation, where when some of her jokes in her show were very clearly sourced from other comedians, who do you blame? Like, she had a team of writers. Did they lift it? Like, how is Amy Schumer supposed to know that everything that comes across her desk is 100% original out of that writer's room? Maybe she did know and she lifted them. Maybe it was a writer. Who knows? And it's the same with the corporate channels, where it's very difficult to pin down the responsibility, because most people in the process are going to think, hey, this is just the new video. Why would you even consider that the whole of that video, or at least the important parts, had already been done on YouTube?
Yeah, exactly.
I think you're right. There's definitely times when it's a gray area, when it gets to that corporate level. But one area where this is a very clear cut thing that I think people should be unequivocally taking a stand against, at least from a YouTuber's perspective, is this phenomenon now where reaction videos are making a huge comeback in the form of streamers watching and reacting to full videos from YouTubers. And I think that's normally fine when it's just on their stream, when it's whatever, it's entertaining for their stream for 10 minutes, 20 minutes. But the problem, I think, is when some of these streamers have entire channels dedicated to just reaction videos of other people's content that is already on YouTube. And it's siphoning views. You might say it brings exposure, and it might, but really it's just a very parasitic and like double dipping, because they already have a stream. They're already popular. They're already established. And then they're already using your video as entertainment for their live stream of 10,000, 50,000 viewers. And then now it's like, okay, after that, let's clip that, upload it to YouTube, get 500,000 views of me reacting. Oh, and by the way, the original video, which is off on the recommended, people are going to be way less. Like, if you saw a streamer reacting to something versus a video, and it's the same video, my guess is that most people are more interested in clicking on the streamer reaction, because it's like, okay, I get to see the content and get someone's reaction. It's like a bonus. So I think that's a problem too on YouTube. That's a more direct
thing.
And
I one time, out of curiosity, I looked up on Social Blade, Asmongold has a channel that's just reaction content, separate from his regular channel. And you know how Social Blade, it's got like an insanely stupid range. It's impossible to actually tell what the low end number for what he would be making a year off of those videos was like over $100,000. That was at the low end. The high end was like, obviously in the multiple millions, and obviously he's not making that much. But to be making $100,000 off of reaction to other people's content, it's not right. I don't think it's right.
Can people copyright strike those?
You can. That's the thing. You absolutely can.
I think we need to. So it's going to be a war though, because then you're going to have people re-uploading, and it just gets so messy. I think YouTube, the only solution to this that I think is actually going to be possible is if YouTube just straight up de-recommends, for lack of a better word, just deprioritizes the reaction-based stuff and tries to prioritize the original content as much as they can.
That's tricky too, though, because how do you go about determining which is the kind of reaction content to de-incentivize or deprioritize?
Flag it, some sort of flagging system. I don't know. That's the best I can.
But now we're talking about, we're going back to YouTube's terrible manual review system of people who aren't even from the platform. It's complicated.
Yeah, it's a problem.
It is, yeah. I don't really know what the solution is there, because there's reaction videos. There's like a style of reaction videos on YouTube, which are completely transformative. Basically what H3 used to do, which I don't think there's a problem with that.
No.
And I wouldn't want those types of creators to suddenly be punished because streamers are uploading themselves reacting to other
what
YouTube
you're
videos.
Talking about is essentially the Suzy Lu drama, isn't it?
Basically,
where Suzy Lu is just
Yeah.
watching an entire episodes of anime and occasionally like smiling at certain bits of the show. And that was the extent of her reactions, and the Funimation or whomever the companies came down on her, right? So it does seem like something similar should probably happen.
I even drew a parallel to that, because I talked about this in a video, though I focused more on there's people on Twitch who watch YouTube videos, and there's people on Twitch who watch TV shows. There's a streamer, Trainwrecks TV. He's huge. I'm sure you guys, if you haven't heard of him, he's a really big streamer, regularly gets upwards of 10,000 concurrent viewers. And earlier this year, he was just watching South Park episodes back to back, or watching MasterChef back to back. And
What?
And one time someone wrote an article saying that he was doing it, and he posted on his Reddit, had to delete the VOD because some idiot called me out, lol. It's like, I don't know.
What do you expect? If I picked up a book and just read it aloud on stream, Audible would have a problem with that.
Yeah, exactly.
The author would have a problem with that, and nobody would think twice about it. It would be completely obvious. But yeah, Kevin mentioned John Swan making these videos. When Kevin was in Sardine Jail, John did a few episodes, and one of them was devoted to this, and he ran the numbers of those animes, those videos where Suzy would watch an anime episode, and it was something like, I forget the number, but it was like 22% of the video was actually her commentary. It was a very small percentage, whereas the 75-80% was her kind of reacting visually.
Yeah.
That's pretty tough.
Should be the exact
if
opposite
somebody
of that.
is, that's about right, isn't it? Where if somebody's got like 2/3 of talking and analyzing, and I want to do this on Twitch, I want to watch some videos and, watch a couple minutes, pause it, talk for a while about the little bit you just watched, and keep going. That seems all right to me. That's fair use.
There are Twitch streamers who
hanging
do that.
out though. Yeah, I've seen that on YouTube. I mean, guys like Augie and John too will do that with videos where he'll get a group together and watch a thing and analyze it. That's cool. Just hanging out though, it's to bring that back, it's that weird kind of thing that's like, I feel like I'm hanging out with somebody in this parasocial way who isn't actually my friend, but right now they're promising to watch South Park with me.
Here's the thing. I actually believe that in the future, these companies that own shows like South Park and whatnot are going to pay Twitch streamers to watch their shows online, because it'll be exposure, and they're going to watch it. Watch parties are going to be a corporate paid thing.
Uh-huh.
I just think that
Somebody-
right now it's not fair because it's not like that, and you shouldn't be allowed to abuse copyright. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was talking with somebody who's a streamer actually who does this like privately, and they were telling me, well, you're not understanding though that a lot of these people watching when I watch this kind of content, do these kinds of streams, that this is all they have. You know, like this is their parasocial relationship, fine, but like this is how they're hanging out. This is how they're watching a show with a friend, and they don't have somebody else to do it with. And I don't, you know, I think that's I don't think it's a very valid argument for what I'm talking about when it comes to this stuff being uploaded to YouTube and all that. But it is an interesting point though of, yeah, like I could totally see this getting, you know, it's almost like OnlyFans once again, because obviously it's a different situation, but where it's lonely people who they're trying to simulate some sort of, you know, friendship interaction. I think we're going to see more of that too going forward.
It's like Only Friends.
Only Friends. Yeah, there you go. That's a good one.
Oh my God, what are we doing? We need to start this website.
Yeah.
This
We'll
sounds
be
like it'd be a big
billionaires.
That would be.
Let's get off this podcast right now and register Only
Yes.
Friends.
Already
Do
done it.
That's next.
Somebody
That's
in the
next.
episode chat is probably registering the domain right now. I'm going to type it in. I want to see.
That
I wanna
is the
see.
downside of doing this live with our patrons, is they can steal our ideas in real time. But speaking of patrons and allowing them into our conversation, do we have any questions for the guys from them?
We do. And by the way, OnlyFriends is taken.
Oh, really?
Onlyfriend.org. Onlyfriend.org is still available. So
let's get it.
there's a possibility we could tweak it a little bit. And onlychums.com is available as well.
That's a good
Doesn't
one.
sound
There you
as
go.
good.
So if you
though.
want to be chummy with your chums, it's got a nice
We're going to normalize
kind of British
it.
Isles charm to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Normalized chums.
Yes.
Okay, well, our check from the sponsor Eagle Brand Sardines has bounced. We don't actually have a sponsor for this episode because of that, and we need one. So the creative prompt here is you guys need to invent a sponsor for this episode and do a 10-second ad read.
Can the sponsor be OnlyFriends?
Oh, it certainly can. What's the ad read for OnlyFriends? How do you sell it?
Oh
I don't
man.
think I've even done an ad read before. I don't do sponsorships.
OnlyFriends is the one place that you can go to meet new people without the terrible pressures of expecting sex and sexual content. Are you sick and tired of girls online leading you on because you're lonely? Well, finally, there's a platform for you, a place where you can meet new people and pay to be friends with them. So that we could take a transaction fee and make money off of this company.
Very wholesome.
Yeah.
That's
People like
good.
honesty.
And I think the conversion, use code CREATE for 68% off. Since we're not a filthy site, we don't do 69% off. So it's
You
absolutely
keep the dollar.
68% off with code CREATE.
I
Yeah,
have
you
an ad
keep the
read.
dollar. That's right.
I have an ad read ready.
Okay, go.
Okay. I'll try to keep mine short. Creative Con. Are you tired of VidCon having a bunch of 10-year-olds running around while you have alcohol in your hand? Well, Creative Con is the convention for you. Meet other YouTubers who are over the age of 20.
Ooh, 20. Why 20?
Should really be 21, right?
I guess probably.
I don't know. I just wanted to give some leeway.
So Turkey Tom can't come is what you're saying.
No, he's banned.
Not
He's
for a little bit.
He's on the blacklist, actually, just by default.
He's already been banned from the conference that,
Oh, yeah.
that doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, me and Slush are going to handle all the bans. There's going to be a lot of them.
The list will be uploaded to our Blackberries.
Yeah, we're going to upload the list to a Google Doc.
So this is for both of you. What's your favorite retro video game? This is from Marco.
Who wants to go first?
Do you have a favorite retro
me,
video game?
I think it's just the classic. Like, I if you consider Pokemon Red and Yellow, the GBA ones, or Game Boy Color ones, retro, that's retro to me. That's my classics.
That counts.
Does that qualify, Kevin? It does?
Does N64,
Absolutely.
is it N64 retro now? Like enough?
I think so.
Then I'm going
I
with
think it counts too.
Banjo-Kazooie.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if you play Banjo-Kazooie today, you'll feel like you're playing a retro game.
This is true.
Maybe I'm
Just
just
walking
got
around
rose-colored
collecting,
glasses, but I think it holds up decently.
Yeah, I feel like that era, N60, PS1, N64, Sega Saturn. Some of those games by today, man, they look rough.
Yeah. Well, definitely the graphics are not up to snuff with today. But I feel like
a certain point,
the cartoony nature of certain games makes it hold up better. Kind of like how Wind Waker
That's
looks
true.
better than Twilight Princess now.
Yeah, that's a good point. Definitely.
that's what I like about.
I'm gonna
Nintendo
hit-
games.
Yeah, the cell shading aged well.
Yeah, very well.
Ahead of its time. People
I'm going to
hated it.
hit another couple gaming related ones to keep the theme. This is a little bit of an extension of what we talked about with Smash earlier. Conrad asked, "Are either of you going to do a proper deep dive on the Smash pedo ring, as Conrad put it?" But I think it's broader than that.
We were actually gonna do a
but
collab
yeah,
on that.
Maybe we still will.
What happened?
Yeah, maybe we still. Oh, I think we both just got carried away with the videos we were working on at the time, and we were like, "Oh, we'll do this after." But maybe we still will.
We want to collaborate on a documentary, like full length type thing at some point, and that maybe that's in the cards. That
Yeah.
topic. It's definitely a big, deep topic that I think you're going to
Yeah.
see a lot of stuff on.
Yeah, and I
Base
have some
weight-
connections
sorry,
to
go
the
on.
community, so I'm not really saying anything important. Don't worry about it. I was
He's just
gonna say,
bragging about his connections with the community.
It would make it interesting because I'd be able to potentially interview. I actually did ask someone who is like a top player who'd been around for years, and I was like, "Hey, could I interview you about a video about this if I was going to do it?" And he was like, "I'm never fucking touching that with like a 1,000,000-foot pole." So
That's
no.
how you know it's a good video, though.
Yeah.
So Baseweight asks, "Who's your main in Smash, and why is it Isabel?"
Oh god. Well, first of all, he's talking about Smash Ultimate. That's the first
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
No, I like Ultimate. It's actually okay, but Sam might have a few choice words for it. He's a hardcore melee player.
It's true. I am. I think Ultimate's a great game casually. There's no denying that.
Yeah,
It's probably the best Smash game because it has so many characters, so many levels, and all kinds of crazy items and stuff. But
who's your main in melee?
my main in melee is Sheik. I'm a filthy Sheik player. I will zone you. I'm a zoning person. I'll get you into the corner and I will
You're getting
hold you
boos.
there until you die.
You just got a long boo in the chat.
I also play Falco. Everyone likes Falco.
Even longer, boo. Even longer. No, I'm just
Wow, really?
no.
Dojangles approves of Falco. So
Nice.
Kino says Falco is awesome.
Hey.
That's good. That's good. So this is, I've got to see who. Oh, this is from Conrad. Who has more incompetent management, Twitch or YouTube?
Oh, easily
In-
Twitch.
Incompetence?
Yeah.
I would argue
or
that
incontinent. That would be a fascinating question too.
Actually,
which
it
one
probably
has incontinence?
I would argue that Twitch, even though it's much more egregious than YouTube in terms of their policies, is actually less incompetent because they're doing it on purpose. Whereas YouTube is just like, I feel like 80% of the bad decisions made are just out of incompetence and not because they're trying to.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's a good point, actually. Yeah, like I was thinking more in terms of like good and bad, but in terms of competence, yeah, it's true that YouTube is just, I mean, they just don't have the resources as well. Like, it's just, there's so much content uploaded and there's so many different communities and, yeah, it's just harder with YouTube to even do that.
Mm-hmm.
Harder than Twitch, which is done in real time.
Yeah.
Like it's obviously much smaller, but it is real time.
Because the majority of viewers on Twitch, well, first of all, Twitch has like 15 million active users last time I heard, and YouTube has like 2 billion. But I will say that Twitch, even though it's in real time, the majority of viewers are congregated around like maybe 100 of the top streamers or like the top 50 even, so it's just such a smaller community. Like, you can know all the big streamers on Twitch like within a week, but YouTube, I'm finding people like who have millions of subs, who I'd never heard about.
Oh yeah, Kevin, we talked about that at one VidCon, didn't we? Where we went to the VidCon and like didn't recognize any of the featured creators.
Yeah.
Which VidCon? Because they're all like that.
They are.
You're like, who are any of these people? And you look them up and they all have like 13 million subscribers. You're like, oh, okay.
I want to tell a short story if you don't mind about that very thing. Sam, you'll remember this. We went to VidCon. Okay, we went to a panel. I think the VidCon panels are fun sometimes. Sometimes it's fun to see how out of touch YouTube is, and it's just entertaining to me. But we went to a panel that was, what was it? How to go viral. How to go viral panel. And it was, I'm assuming this is for like creators, like YouTubers and stuff, you know, not just for like whatever. It was like on the second floor. And there was a woman giving a presentation about how to go viral and just talking about, she wasn't giving bad points, I don't think. I guess it was very basic.
Just very generic advice, I would say.
Yeah, like pretty generic, very ambiguous. Like, well, try to be unique, try to do this. Like, okay, yeah. And it was funny though, because she had like this video that like 7 years ago or something. It got a lot of views. It had like 10 million views. It was like some weird one-off with video. And I was like, okay, this is cool, how to go viral. But her whole channel, they didn't talk about this in the presentation, had like 20K subs, and like none of her other videos had views. And I'm not trying to knock on her for that, but it's just like, okay, well, what's the point of going viral if you just get one? Like, it just seemed like such a silly goal or whatever to just have one video.
Yeah, but it's like how to catch lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you don't
be lucky,
really, and if you do, you're lucky. Yeah, it was funny. There were years and years and years ago, the guy who made the keyboard cat video. Do you remember Keyboard Cat?
Yeah,
it was one of like the earlier viral videos. He came into the office where I was working and literally was having a meeting about that. He was like, "All right, I did Keyboard Cat. What's next?" And the answer was nothing. You're done. Congratulations on Keyboard Cat. Here's the door. Goodbye.
Right. One hit wonder.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was bizarre. I was wondering if the people in the audience during that lecture or whatever were aware of how long she had been failing to recapture what she was claiming to be giving advice on. Because if she knows so well how to go viral, then how come in 7 years she couldn't do it again?
Yeah, there was a panel that I was on where we took questions at the end, and a guy stands up and he goes, I'd like to know how to get 10 million views. And I said, you don't.
Yeah.
that was it. That was my answer. I was like, you do not. You do not get 10 million views, sir. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Mr. Beast would have something to say about that, I guess.
Like, good day, sir.
It's like
good
those
day, sir.
It's like those tutorial videos on YouTube. I saw this on Twitter once. It's like a tutorial video, how to get millions of views on YouTube, and the video has like 5 views.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just
the gurus always have like 2,000 subscribers to sell a system of how to get 10 million views in 7 days.
Right.
Yeah. Reminds me, you know that meme where it's like top 10 things this person did well, and then it's like, thanks for watching right away. Does it list anything? It's like basically that. It's like how to have 10 million views. Thanks for watching.
Yeah.
So Kino is conspiring, the Kino Corner is conspiring to make this a 7-hour podcast by asking each of your top 5 albums. How about we do top 1 album for each of you?
I mean, no one can possibly pick a single album. Surely.
I'll give you top 5. No, it's easier to do top 5. I'll give it to you quickly. I have some of them on my shelf.
They're going to be almost the same as mine.
Yeah. Okay. College Dropout by Kanye West.
Mm-hmm.
Vampire Weekend by Vampire Weekend. I would say Good Kid, Mad City by Kendrick Lamar is definitely in my top 5. I want to say there's going to be there might be 2, but there's definitely at least 1 Animal Collective album. I think Merriweather Post Pavilion. And one more I'll put in Weezer Blue Album. That's a classic. It's got to be in there. So those are 5 right there.
I mean, it's literally the same thing for me.
The same, really?
I mean, I wouldn't know which Animal Collective album to pick because I'm constantly. It's like every few months a different one is my favorite album. But they're my favorite bands.
Me
Yeah.
and Slush have very similar. We're just on the same wavelength with a lot
Yeah.
of tastes, and that's why we hang out all the time.
He's the only friend I've ever gotten into Animal Collective ever. I've tried with everyone I know,
Yeah.
and everyone is just like, "What is this shit?" But then Greg is like, "This is dope. I like this."
Yeah, yeah.
Kevin, can you commit to one? I know we've talked in the past about bands that you like and music that you like, but if you had to commit to one absolute favorite, could you? Favorite album?
I mean, gun to the head, I probably would. Oh man, gun to the head, I would probably say Nirvana. Nevermind, probably. I probably would say that.
Sam, that's in your top 5. I feel like too.
Actually, I would put In Utero above all of the other Nirvana albums, personally.
See, I agree with you. I don't. Oh, this is going to turn into a 7-hour podcast. I agree with you that In Utero is their best album. But Nevermind was so freaking important
Yeah.
to me, at least at that time where, prior to that album, I was listening to MC Hammer.
Right.
So
Christ.
yeah, it was like a pretty big switch in my life when that
It was
album
culturally
came
a
out.
massive switch. It was pretty much when everyone went
crazy.
from 80s pop to grunge
And
collectively.
it ruined all of Matt's favorite bands.
It did. And, there's a neat thing that happened there. And I've talked to Kevin, I've brought this up to you like 7 times in the last few years. There's a switch where Nevermind was number 1. I believe it was the same week after Love of a Lifetime by Firehouse. And that is one of the last, like, kind of sorry, Firehouse, if you're listening to this podcast, shitty hair metal bands. I love Firehouse. I love their music. But, you see the video and it's like leather jacket with the sleeves pushed up to the elbows and huge curly metal hair. Yeah, but it was like 1992 or something, right? It was way at the
outdated.
end of that. And it was such a great song. And that's why it was number 1. But it was such a strange thing. Like that to me is the moment where the switch happened, where if you can have that song one week, number 1, and then next week it's Nevermind, something is changing right now.
And I would argue,
Dojingle says Firehouse is so lame. She is banned from the Discord. She is
Let's
out of the
admit
dumpster.
it. All the hair metal bands kind of sound the same.
similar, yeah. Very
this
similar.
is becoming
There's like a Simpsons joke
offensive.
where
This
they're
is an
like,
attack.
"Thank
This
you,
is just an attack
we're
on Matt."
poison,"
This-
and they're like, "What poison? I thought we were White
This-
Snake." And they're like, drummers. Their drum kit says Def Leppard on it.
This podcast is becoming a hate crime. I
Yeah.
hope YouTube age restricts
It's
it.
gonna get banned now. We're gonna get banned.
I don't want anybody under 18 hearing this. And by the way, my album is Leonard Skinner's live album, One More from the Road. It's actually a double album on vinyl. And that was one of my favorites growing up. And the copy that I had somehow gotten on some heat. And so there was a big kind of bubble on one of the albums. And so the needle on the record player didn't quite navigate that swell very well. So I didn't hear, there was probably 45 seconds of one of the Skynyrd songs that I didn't hear until like 5 years later.
Oh wow.
But yeah,
lost
that was kind of
45
crazy.
seconds.
I couldn't,
That's a
we're
video
talking like
essay.
1991.
That's a video essay right there.
Yeah, that was cool. I remember hearing it and being like, oh, so that's how the whole song sounds. But yeah, that was an extremely it's really ridiculous now that I think about it. But and it wasn't a popular one, so it was never on the radio. It wasn't like Sweet Home Alabama or something.
Right.
But yeah, that if I had one album, it would be that one on vinyl.
You guys should get Anthony Fantano on this.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome.
Although after us being on here, he's gonna be like, I don't know, I can't top that episode. So
Yeah.
I-
Well, that'll
I don't
probably
think
happen
he's
with
ever been
everyone.
requested.
he
I
hasn't
don't
been
think he's
requested.
ever been requested in the guest request.
Pretty different
chat.
audiences, I guess. But
You should really hammer into him about the Fader article.
yeah, just
That'll
I'm sure that'll be received well.
be very comfortable for him.
I think
Maybe bring
I'd
up
love
that he
to
had
talk to
Sam
him about
Hyde
a
on
lot of
his
his
podcast.
tweets.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Ask him about
that
his
was a while
tweets and then
ago.
juxtapose that with, so you interviewed Sam Hyde.
So I want to go point by point that you talked with him.
Yeah.
Okay, a guilty pleasure favorite fast food restaurant. And why, this is from Isaac, and why are BK nuggets superior to all?
Oh, wow.
But yeah,
was that
favorite
a,
fast
was that
food.
a Burger
Had them.
King? You guys know this thing with Burger there's this genius, some genius whiz kid at Burger King is like, hey, instead of like paying millions of dollars for sponsors, why don't we just donate to Twitch streamers something involving Burger King? And it worked, like $10 donations that are being read by people with thousands of viewers.
Yeah.
So I think you just got infiltrated with
That was
one
genius, yeah.
of the favorite fast food restaurant. I don't really eat fast food. I would say In-N-Out, if that counts. I guess it counts, right? Yeah, I like In-N-Out.
Okay.
Five Guys, pretty good too.
Pizza is not fast food, right?
Sure it is.
Is it?
I suppose
If
it
it's
could
a
be.
chain, I would count it if it's
If
like
it's a chain.
Domino's or
Okay.
Pizza
Pizza
Hut,
Nova.
sure.
I think that's I don't even know
Pizza
if that's like a Canadian thing or just like an
It's a Canadian
Ontario
thing.
thing. It might be even
Oh,
it might just be like an Ontario thing.
Probably Ontario.
It's just a chain in Toronto that I think makes dope pizza. I never get it because I can't eat pizza or anything. I have like a skin you could probably see it on I have like redness all over my forehead. It's because last night I didn't know there was gonna be cameras today. I was like, well, no one's gonna see it in the podcast, but I ate a bunch of food I wasn't supposed to eat, which means I had jam on bread. But I can basically like anything I eat just like causes my skin to
Now, anyone
flare
listening
up.
to this and not seeing the camera is just going to imagine like the most disgusting, ugly boiled.
It's not that
SpongeBob.
bad, and I'm usually pretty good about it. And that's why I messaged you about buckwheat earlier, because I eat buckwheat on a daily basis because it's like one of the only things I can eat without triggering my dermatitis. So I'm like constantly eating like buckwheat and rye bread and lamb and chicken. But yeah, so I don't. But every now and then I'll get pizza, which I'm not supposed to have, but it's Pizza Nova. It's the place I go.
And
So that
you
is
thought
a-
I was memeing
dude.
when I.
that's a literal guilty pleasure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel
It's a
very.
literal.
Yeah.
I
You are
suffer
punished
physical
for eating this.
consequences.
Yeah. It's one way to eat healthy.
Yeah, you thought I was memeing when I said that we had a couple acres of buckwheat that was ready. My brother
Dude.
called me about it on Saturday. He's like, yeah, if you want to go get some of the buckwheat, it's probably going to get plowed under because
Can
that's
we
good
move
for the
in?
soil. And yeah, you thought I was talking shit.
We should just have a podcast in the middle of the field and like Buckwheat Boys will be the name of it.
See, okay, that one actually is legally not allowed because the Buckwheat Boys are the famous music duo that made "It's Peanut Butter Jelly Time."
Yeah.
So that one's
No
But
actually
kidding.
I'm pretty sure.
copyright.
I'm pretty sure. Very short story. I'm pretty sure me and Sam broke the simulation at some point. Like we caused a Mandela effect because completely ignorant of the fact that there's this group that made that song with the name Buckwheat Boys. We wanted to start a podcast, and we're like, we both joke about buckwheat because that's all he eats, and sometimes I eat it, and we're like, we're gonna call it Buckwheat Boys, jokingly, you know. And then we're like,
Thinking
no,
no
we
one
can't.
could possibly ever think of such a stupid name themselves.
And I know that song, Peanut Butter Jelly Time, from way back in the day, but I never knew it was made by Buckwheat Boys.
I didn't know it had a name.
Yeah.
So
Me either.
we
Yeah, I didn't know who made that.
we retroactively made their name Buckwheat Boys. By, yeah.
There was a jump in
That's
time.
awesome.
Definitely.
Elsa from Frozen has a YouTube channel. This is in Baseweight's mind. If Elsa from Frozen were to have a YouTube channel, what kind of content would she create?
Have you seen that JonTron video with the bootleg Disney games? That's how I'm
No.
picturing it. It's like Elsa's frozen foot surgery and Elsa's zombie baby.
I think if she would offer social comment, it would be like one of those videos where it's a very pretty room. Like girls, I see this with girl channels sometimes. not that I
40-minute
watch a lot.
apology videos. That's all she does.
No, like it'd be a very pretty room, and she would give like, 10, 15-minute videos talking about like what's going on and social things. And I think something like that.
Most exciting thing in your life right now from Marco?
Oh,
Or what are you most excited about?
my videos that I take 2 months to make.
Yeah, same. I would say the same thing. The thrill of
That's a wholesome answer for this podcast.
there's nothing quite like the thrill of when you're putting a video together and it comes out really dope and you're just like, I did that. That's awesome.
Hanging out with friends and collaborating with them when possible. Like with this, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm like coming out with merch, and I took a bunch of pictures of my friends wearing my shirt, and I'm like going to use that as promotion. So that's really fun.
That's cool. Nice.
Yeah, that's dope.
And Chinchilla, we got a couple here, and then I think Kevin has one at the end. Chinchilla is building on really the question I had at the beginning about what about the mommy figures. Yeah, he said father figure video is very masculine. What about the mommy figures and sister figures? And I think that's the real question here is there a role for, sister figures and brother figures? You put Wang in as a father figure, and he's such a weird middle ground. Like Wang is the most baller older brother on the internet.
Yes.
But he's also got the fatherly elements too, And so is there a role for the mommies and the sisters and the brothers?
I think so. I think for sure. I mean, I think the brothers are almost, I don't know how well I framed it in the video, but I think like the commentary YouTubers, Ethan Klein, iDubbbz, like these guys occupy definitely a big brother type space. But for mothers, I don't know. Like I can't think of that many mother figures on YouTube, to be honest with you. I'm trying to think of I can think of bad examples like Trisha Paytas or
God.
Not so good channels, but I don't want to use them as examples.
I would, and I'm not basing this off of any form of legitimate evidence, but I feel like there's less of a demand for mother figures societally, because it's almost like if you look at how families were structured, like the nuclear family, you have more cases where the father isn't present than the mother isn't present. Usually the mom is the one that sticks around, and I feel like that almost translates into the way things are in society, where you have like in our messaging in society, there's more of like a motherly voice and less of a fatherly presence, and that's why people look for it more. But I could be completely wrong. I'm kind of talking out of my ass here, to be honest.
I think you're onto something for sure. I think there's more of a demand for fathers. Mothers, obviously this is, obviously there are people who don't have mothers in their life, of course, but I think that's more rare.
So is that, I want to really quick follow up on that, because generally all you hear about is the patriarchy, not the matriarchy. Mm-hmm. So are you creating a distinction between saying like culturally it's a matriarchy, whereas perhaps systemically it's a patriarchy? Like, have you guys broken that out?
I feel like when I think patriarchy, I'm thinking like the people in leading roles are male. Whereas when I was thinking that there's less of a demand for mother figures, I was sort of just thinking that mothers are more likely to be the ones that stick around in families, and B, that the sort of messaging that you would get from a mother is already prevalent in our media and even in probably like cartoons and stuff like that. Whereas clearly when someone like Jordan Peterson comes along and tells you to clean your room and stuff like that, there's a ton of people who feel like they needed to hear it. Whereas you'll notice a lot of women who there's obviously his audience is less female than it is male. And it feels like a lot of the girls I know who don't like him will always say that everything he's saying is very obvious, which leads me to believe that they're getting it from somewhere else.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's a point I made is like, if it's so obvious, it might be obvious to you, but clearly it's not obvious to these other people who need to hear it. The patriarchy thing, I mean, yeah, like clearly positions of like power is occupied by men. But I do think there's something, this is what Sam said about culturally speaking, there's a lot of female empowerment, female focus on girls. Like, for example, with the OnlyFans thing, I think the default, why my video, I think stood out to a lot of people. And I've had people message me this, like girls message me, guys message me saying like, it was a breath of fresh air because I felt like you were going at it at the angle of, well, what are the guys experiencing and somewhat the girls. But like I think when it comes to these kinds of things, I think a lot of things are viewed through a girl's lens, which is useful, of course, but I think you need both perspectives or multiple perspectives.
Yeah,
that's awesome. And the last one is actually the last bit before Kevin's burning question is a comment rather than a question. Catboy and the Baby Gang wanted a message passed along. He said, "Will you thank Glink for me for the video that I put in earlier, which was I linked the father figure video. He says it really, really related to me, and I can't stop thinking about it.
Oh,
Amazing video. I've subbed to him now, and I'll be watching his other stuff when I'm free. That we're going to put links to everything down in the description, but that's what happens with both of these guys. And when I first met Slush on Twitter, look, when you come across somebody and he was added to a group chat, the first thing you do is go and consume their entire body of work so you can, come up with some conception of them before you actually talk to them. But I didn't watch a lot of videos on anything in gaming or esports or anything like that. And so that was back when I could watch the Ninja video, the Dr. Disrespect video. And I got an appreciation for what happens on the gaming side because we're so locked in, number one, to YouTube, but number two, hyper-focused on educational content and since I don't play games, I didn't see a lot of that stuff. But I had a similar feeling. It didn't relate to me because it wasn't my life, but the elements of complexity in the stories that those guys had that you told, I thought, this is important. I need to follow along here. And yeah, I was instant sub. So
thank you.
This is what you get from both Glink and Slush. Hit the links in the description on this because whatever's coming next from both of them is going to be a pretty important video. And it's one that we'll probably be talking about on a future episode if you're willing to come back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, hey, I want to say, by the way, Matt, you have had, you've been a really supportive person. Like, even though we don't know each other very well, I think you have a really good eye for creators and content. And I appreciate that to the guy who said that. And I also appreciate just you, because like even just in DMs and stuff, you've been really
thank you supportive
and such.
Yeah, I can also absolutely say I think before when I just joined the group chat, we had barely even spoken, and you were already offered to, like, anytime I had questions about stuff, you're like, just feel free to hit me up, and you've been amazing about that. And yeah, it's definitely goes noticed for sure. I appreciate it too a lot.
Thank you.
I don't want Frank.
And Kevin's really cool too, even though we just met him.
I was gonna say, now that we're done slurping Matt and you guys, let's get to the most important question. And
this is big. Yeah.
Take them at your own pace, one at a time. What is your fursona?
Oh God. Oh man, I didn't expect that. Okay, I'm gonna think about it.
In Banjo-Kazooie, there's a level called Freezeezy Peak, and in that level, there's a giant walrus that just like dancing around a fireplace. That walrus is my fursona because he seems really happy. So I just want to be enjoying everything as much as that walrus.
I don't think that's fur though. That's like a skin.
Happy walrus is good.
Don't discriminate.
Carson had a bird though. I mean, yeah, I think you can have scales and feathers, and all manners of animal can be turned into a fursona.
I get to have like two giant teeth. It's pretty dope.
Yeah, they kind of have beards too. They have pretty furry beards. Walruses.
Yeah.
See, I'm already halfway there. Got a beard.
Does Sonic count? Like, if I wear like a Sonic recolor as like a onesie?
I believe that's the origin of fursonas in general.
I'm going straight to the source. Okay, I played Sonic. I like Sonic. So.
Sonichu.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Would you modify Sonic in any way though?
Yeah.
Would you adjust Sonic's body?
It's gonna be Are
you happy with Sonic's
Armenian
proportions
Sonic?
And everything?
Yeah, it's gonna be Armenian. It's gonna have the flag colors. It's gonna be great. That's actually a good idea. No, I need to do that.
Have your haircut too.
It is good.
Next convention in 20 years.
Well,
Armenian
Sonic, Happy Walrus.
Sonic and Happy Walrus.
Armenian Sonic, Happy Walrus. It's been a pleasure, my friends, getting to know you guys. We never talked before this, so this is great.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I now have to also consume more of your content.
Well, thank you for having us. Thank you, man.
Yeah,
I appreciate
absolutely.
you. I appreciate Matt. I appreciate both of you guys. This has been fun. This has honestly been really fun.
It's been a great time.
Thanks to everybody who showed up to watch it happen too.
Yeah.
All the patrons in the episode chat. It's been flowing the whole time. It's very good. Yeah. Come back for the next one. It's a
Yeah,
rocking time in there.
Patreon.com/thecreateunknown is your ticket in to joining us for these weekly recordings. So you get to be involved and, be in the chat. You get to throw pictures in there and hear all of our ideas and steal them in real time. So make sure you do that. Make sure that you follow these guys because they make great stuff. And anyway, until then, see you, Space Cowboys.